Hi, my name is Dennis Feidner, and I'm the CEO and founder for a company called Chief Financial Officer on a Go. And today, I'm going to share with you a few items that I think may be important for you. My background: CFO, controller, VP of finance for 30 years in the construction industry prior to this. So today's topic is: how safe is your company? And this is a video for owners that are trying to detect or prevent fraud in their company. And this goes on a lot more than you may imagine in our industry. It's pretty prevalent. And so I've got some ideas, the things that you should look for, things that you can do to, either deter or catch people. So the first question that you should probably think about is: who is it? Who is a likely suspect? And this is typical. They're usually well educated, usually one of your longer term employees, usually considered to be a loyal employee, early to work, stays late, never takes a day off, very rarely takes a day of vacation, always there. Those are suspects. Usually they're liked by other employees because they may use the money that they take to buy them gifts or take them out for nice lunches. And a lot of the times the way they give themselves away is they appear to live a lifestyle that their check cannot support. So nice clothes, $80,000 car in the parking lot, a lot of remodel on their home, vacation home, nice vacations, that type of thing. And the greatest story I ever heard was a lady who had built a spec her own home and paid cash for it, and she made $40,000 a year, by the way. So there's a giveaway. So that's the kind of things to watch for. Sometimes they'll say, oh, I only work because my husband travels a lot and he makes a lot of money, and so that's why I have all these nice things, is I just use my check to buy these things. Well, that may or may not be true. Most of the time it's not. That's another thing just to keep your head about, that if they're driving a nicer car than you and taking better vacations than you, and they make a lot less than you, they're supplementing it somewhere potentially. So what can you do? There's 5 things I think you can do. The easiest one, and the one that's most prevalent, is that they'll set up a vendor and make out a check to a new vendor that doesn't exist, make a fake invoice, and charge that to your jobs. Then they're going to take that check and either go to a bank account they set up in the fake company's name, or more than likely they're just going to cash the check. And that's what we see a lot, is they basically take that check in and cash it. So what can you do about that? 2 things. One is, and in our system, just for the record, we sell Sage software, but we set up an alert that anytime a new vendor is set up, it sends an alert to the owner that a new vendor was set up yesterday, so that he's on the alert for that. He knows he can go ask questions. The other thing to look for, and this is the one that's also a giveaway, is look for any vendor in your system that has a P.O. box. And then I would research that, or have somebody that you trust to research that. But if it has a P.O. box as a mailing address, most companies do not use P.O. boxes. So I would look for that. I would then take that. I would go get the invoice that matches to that P.O. box. If it has a street address, I would, in today's day and age, it's a lot easier than when I started out, I would Google that address. And if that address is in a residential neighborhood, or it's in a shopping center, like a FedEx, or not a FedEx, a UPS store, or mailbox, etc., something like that, I'd be concerned, because it's not really going to a company. So those are things that you can do. Not going to take a lot of your time, but you may catch somebody mailing checks to their neighbor's house or their own house. Bank statements. I know that they don't include the checks anymore, which is kind of a shame, because that was the way we caught a lot of people. But I would have bank statements mailed to your house. Make sure that somebody's not doctoring those, because we've seen that in our travels. Somebody that actually was recreating Wells Fargo bank statements and deleting out the transactions that were actually her personal transactions, so nobody could catch them. So I would get those. I would sometimes spot check and look for round numbers. If I saw a check for $2,000 or $1,500, I would ask somebody to pull that check. If I want the documentation and the support that backs up that. Most times you're probably going to be wrong, but at least people know you're looking and checking things. The next thing, and I know this sounds like a lot of work, it's not, but one Friday, or typically Friday is payday, one Friday, you as the owner, and you can drag somebody from the office to help you, will take all of the paychecks. They will not be delivered to the foreman as usual. You will have all 100% of the paychecks delivered to you, and you will drive from job to job, and you'll hand those checks out to the individual employee who proves to you that they're that employee. And this has happened because I've done this for other clients. You're going to wind up with checks left over. If you do, maybe the guy was out sick that day, but most likely he's what we call a straw employee, a fake employee that somebody's just taking that check each week and going and cashing it. So again, I don't want to scare everybody and think that everybody has somebody stealing from them. But this industry, other than the financial and banking industry, is subject to fraud. And the recession really brought that on, and it really has peaked over the last couple of years because somebody in the household may have lost their job, and now they're living off of one paycheck, and people just thought that for a little while they'll supplement it. What happens is those people then get a little greedy, and they can't stop because they're used to that money, and it continues to grow until they actually just do it so often and so in such large numbers that they force themselves to get caught. The next one's a little bit harder, and that's checking for straw vendors, which are fake vendors. But this is one, and this is very hard to catch. So here's how this would work. You need to buy some product for your company, and I'm not sure what that is. Let's just say it's bags of concrete, because I'm just going to make that up. It's bags of concrete. So employee A, who's an estimator or a project manager, is going to order that. He calls up his buddy who has a fake company and says, hey, I need to order 400 bags of concrete at $10 a bag. So that's $4,000. He does that. He orders that, sends that to him. His buddy turns around and calls somebody else, and he buys those 400 bags for $8, has them shipped to the job. So they show up on job. So you actually got 400 bags of concrete. Now, the company pays the fake vendor the $4,000. Okay, catching on here. So you're at the $4,000. The guy that gets the $4,000 check, he sends a check to the legitimate vendor for $3,200, which is the 8 times the 400. So they're happy, they got paid, and now there's $800 left over, and they usually split that 50-50. So your estimator just made $400, and the guy for writing the check, wrote a check and had to take the bank to the bank, made $400. But those happen with much larger numbers. We heard a story at a conference where a graphic designer was using that same scheme with a fake publishing or fake printing company, and over the term of many years, overcharged customers $800,000. Not $800, $800,000 is what he got split between him and his buddy. So that's what you need to look for. That's hard to catch, other than asking for the comparative bids. Those are going to be hard to catch, but something to be aware of because it does happen out there. Look for duplicate reimbursements. This is going to be on the next page as well, but it's hard to tell nowadays. When I started out, there were no laser printers. Everything was dot matrix, and so everything had a perforation on the side where they had torn it off. So I could always tell, as a controller, that it was an original invoice because it had you could feel those little perforations on the side. Can't do that anymore. And so just look for duplicates. It's going to be hard, but you may be able to find some, especially on expense reports. And I'm going to address that in a little bit on the next slide. Anyway, and then check signing, where I've seen people get into trouble. Because these things hit our desk all the time because we're asked to come in there and take a look and see if we can find something because something just doesn't look right. Don't use a rubber stamp for your check signature. Don't use a facsimile. Somebody needs to manually sign those checks and compare it to the backup to make sure they know what they're signing for. And in most companies, I would require a second signature, and you can pick the dollar amount. Depends on how large your company is. You may be okay with 10,000. Some companies may be okay with 5,000. It's up to you, but anything over 5,000 should get a second signature. Sometimes that'll delay the check going out, but I still think it's important. And every company credit card statement should be reviewed by the owner, and every transaction piece should be reviewed. Last time, you can't believe how many people try and sneak by movies, dinners, what have you, clothing. Because it doesn't look like a large amount and nobody spots it. But there's things on there that you could probably spot right away that shouldn't be reimbursed or be on a company credit card. So be aware of that. Not that hard to check those things. Those credit cards should come right to you unopened. The statements, you should look at them, circle anything you think is questionable, just to let everybody know you're watching, and see what happens after that. A couple other things. And by the way, this is not all inclusive. This is just to give you some ideas of what you could actually do this week or next week to protect your company. Make sure that when you're signing a check, they provide you the backup for that check. Okay? Don't allow copies with expense report. This has to be an original receipt. What happens, and we've seen this a lot, is people will get reimbursed and then they'll go pull their file out of accounts payable, take those receipts and make copies of them, or if they made copies of them before, and turn in those same receipts maybe a week, 2, 3, a month later. Same dinner, different, same dinner amount, same different name, different company. So they're actually getting reimbursed for meals maybe once, twice, 3 times. So be careful of that. That's all I'm asking, is that they make sure that they're original. This is another one, and this woman got away with about somewhere over 300,000. I can't remember the exact number, but it was a fairly large company. So what she did is she had a fake vendor, just like we talked about on a slide or two ago, and she was writing checks, but she did not charge them to open jobs, because people were reviewing job statements and they would notice maybe they went over budget on an item and that she would get caught. So she only charged those charges, and she split them between many closed jobs, so no one closed job was getting a big amount each month. But she charged them to closed jobs because nobody was reviewing those anymore. They were closed, but they're still in the system. You could still charge to them, but nobody was looking at those statements to see that there were charges on those jobs in that month. So another one. Another thing, you just can run a report out of your system. Say, hey, I want all the jobs that are closed, and I want a list of all the transactions for the last 6 months. You might find some may be legitimate. Most of them are probably legitimate, but you may have some that are questionable. And the other thing I really encourage you, it's so inexpensive today, is to run background checks on any new employee. There's a lot of web services, web-based companies that will do that for a minimal fee, but wouldn't it be nice to know that they'd already been arrested, or they'd already been charged with a felony, or they already did jail time for embezzlement? I mean, why would you want to put that person on your payroll? It'll never show up on their resume, and it probably won't show up on the personal references, but it will show up on a background check. That's pretty much it. There's a lot of other things that we could share with you, but this is just kind of a introduction to what you should be watching in your company. And it will not take you more than a half a day, and you don't have to do it every week, but take those paychecks out, hand them out, check IDs. Number one, you're going to get to meet your employees, which I think is important. Number two is, if you have checks left over, you may have an issue. And so if there's 100 of you watching this video, 16 of you, that's the number, 16 of you will find a problem. 16% of our industry has embezzlement or theft problems. So 16 out of 100, hopefully you're one of the 84 that doesn't have an issue, but there are a lot of people out there supplementing their income at your expense. Anyway, my name's Dennis. I'm the CEO and founder for CFO on the Go. There's my phone number. I never, ever charge for a phone call. You have a question, you have a concern, you want to ask me a question, pick up the phone. I have no problem with that. And there's our website, cfootg.net. Lots of information, lots of white papers out there. So I appreciate your time and patience listening to this, but hopefully you'll find it useful, helpful. Maybe you can share this with other people in your organization. But I encourage you to try and do some of the things that I recommend, and hopefully you come up with a clean bill of health. Thank you very much.